And today I'm going to show you my long hair textured balayage with a nice bold face frame, and that's pretty much it, isn't it? I don't know what else to say today. Alright, so I'm just showing you a before of Ella. Her hair is so beautiful. Comes out a treat. Can see that she's got a little bit of old balayage in her hair, so I reckon it had been about maybe 6-7 months from the first time that I did it. Using my board, of course, again, and I'm using the Foil Me original foil. So when I'm doing a balayage, if you've watched my other tutorial, you'll see I do this same section pattern. So I just like to keep it simple. I work with the same pattern and I just change my foil placement and my weave. But generally always these days around my hairline, no matter what I'm doing, I will do baby fine foils to the roots for the first 3 to 5 foils, depending on hair color. And by doing this, you'll see at the end, it just gives this really, really lovely, soft look when you brush the hair up. And I always find it really, like, I've been working really hard to perfect my balayage techniques because there's so many different ways to do it, and I know a lot of people do freehand, and it just can feel really messy, and I think it gets really overwhelming, especially if you're working on long hair. And that's why I like to pretty much do everything in a foil wherever I can, and I find that just makes it a lot clearer for me to follow. So it looks like I'm doing about 5 baby fine. And then as I work up deeper into this section, I will actually do a much wider weave. And I'm using the Foil Me, I think it's called the Noble Collection. And I'm using the tint brush. It's like really nice and soft and feathery on the end. So it worked well. It gave me a nice result today. So you can see here a much wider weave, and then I'm just feathering the top. This helps to give me some texture and cover a bit more ground, I guess. And obviously being in that section of the hair, of the head, you can go a little bit heavier. And what I've figured out, what works really well for me, is to put my foils in, and then I will look at my section and I will go back and decide where I want to tip out. Okay, so I've completed one section, and now I will go back. I'll have a look and see what needs, I guess, some brightening, and where I can add some dimension. This is what gives you the dimension on the end. So just thinking, watching what I'm doing. Because Ella does still have a bit of depth with my tip out, I am putting it in a foil. So basically how I do it is, if the hair is pre-lightened and a little bit damaged, I will leave it out to the air and not fold it up in a foil or not put a foil over it. If it's got lots of natural, then I will do it in a foil, because it needs more lifting power. So that's kind of how I decide. So I'm just going through, my general rule is that I will go every second or third, in between every second or third, and I will tip out. And I just keep going all the way to the top. Again, I do just prefer everything in a foil. It helps to keep the situation neater. That's just my opinion. And I'm using the board in a little bit of a different way. Here you can see I'm not pushing it onto my body, I'm just holding it straight down. Still find it so helpful. So repeated the process on the other side, and now I'm onto my crown. Over my crown, always baby fine, of course, because this is going to sit right on the top. So you just want to create my really lovely lines, and I do that by just doing probably about 4 or 5 baby fine weaves, and then I come back and I actually tip out every section in between on this one. Just leaving the very tip of my ends out as well, you'll see, just to protect the hair as it is pre-lightened. So about a centimetre section, and just skimming the top of each section. Okay, so tipping out between each section here, just because there's quite a bit of natural hair, quite a bit of depth, so I really want to create those pops of blonde and build my blonde for the ends. So just doing this the same way as I've done in the previous sections, and I'll just keep this down on a flat foil. Find that works well for me. And yeah, I just work my way through that section. Alright, so onto my front. Again, same sectioning patterns as I've shown before. Obviously hairline, always baby fine. I'm putting these ones in the pink foil just so that I can clearly show where I put my face framing foil. So when I'm creating a face frame, I actually think this entire section is contributing to that, and I will really think about how many foils I'm putting in and how close they are together through here underneath, because this is what creates the strength of the face frame, because obviously this is all falling in natural fall. This will connect with that top bit. So I do these foils baby fine, close together, then I go back and I'll tip out this section. So I guess, for example, if I was only going to create a face frame on someone, so they already had balayage, the pink foils that I'm putting in today, that's what I would be putting in. And actually, I bring them all right to the roots. So as I get to this section, I actually learnt this from watching, I think it's Jay Edwards, I can't remember, but I do actually leave a little triangle in the top section here, and I find that works really well as a little bit of depth that sits behind the face frame. And yeah, it works really well. So I will do this on all my balayages now. There's just no need to put light in that area. However, I do just create a little veil for it by putting a baby fine foil just on the top. Is that vertically or horizontal? I can't work it out. Anyway, you guys know you can watch me do it. And yeah, so I'll just do this little foil here just to soften the section. Works really good. So I love that tip that I learned. I learn a lot from just watching other people, and I'll see them do it, and then I will just experiment and find my own little way. So the most important thing is that it doesn't matter how much education you do, if you don't actually practice it, then you're never really learning anything. So once you watch something, just try and do it within a couple of days, I always say, because if you don't, you're probably never going to. And you can always correct things, especially like with toners and stuff like that. If you put a foil in the wrong place, you can correct it. So onto my face frame. My technique here is 3 to the roots and 2 overlaying. So I'll alternate that depending how thick I want it, depending on the depth of the hair. If someone was like a blonde, like a level 7, level 8, then I would do like 4 or 5 to the roots. But Ella's, are more dark. So I find with a brunette, the technique of 3 to the roots and 2 overlaying is perfect. So I will do my 3. And then I will do another 2, and these 2 will be almost to the roots, but just about a little bit less than a centimetre off. And I find that this just overlays perfectly and helps to give you some width in your face frame. That's why I think the overlaying ones are really important, because otherwise you literally just have a chunk. So it depends what you want. But the 2 that overlay, they soften and give it width as well. So, yeah. My God, there's so much to it. There's so much to think about. So many questions. You just have to have so many questions in your consult, because a face frame can mean so many different things. And yeah, I think everyone sort of sees it differently. So now I have completed the part which I would call my face framing foils, and now I just want to space out some foils. I continue on this pattern of just going straight back, and I do about centimeter sections, medium wave, and I just make sure that I'm starting my bleach a lot further down, because this area here is where we want to keep a lot of depth. And I see a lot of people who will continue to foil this quite high up with a lot of foils, and then they'll use their toner to create all that depth back in there, and I just think that that can be a little bit time wasting. So I'm always being really thoughtful around this area about how many foils I'm putting in and where I'm starting the lightening. So you can see I'm keeping that down a lot lower and just coming up on that edge, which will add to my face frame as well. My gosh, I hope this makes sense. Okay, so with my tipping out on Ella at the front, I decide to do this freehand, or like leaving it without a foil, leaving it out to the air. Reason is that her hair is a little bit fragile, and I was just a little nervous to put that in a foil. I want to protect the integrity of her hair, so I decided to do it this way. I often will do this. I will treat the back and the front of the head completely different. But as you can see, I'll complete a section and then tip it out before I move on to the next section. So just picking some pieces around the front where I think we need to add some lightness and some dimension, and I just work through this whole section using my board, no foil, and I just leave it out to the air. It actually worked really well and kept her hair super healthy. So I think it's a good tip to leave it out of a foil when it's already lightened. So with my tip out, I'm thinking about the fact that I want the front to be the most bold, so that's why I will do more at the front, and then as I'm going back I will space them out even with the tip out. So basically the same as the foil pattern. So I always think of it as like stacking them really close together, and then as I go back I space them out slowly. Weaving this bit. The reason why I go through each section rather than taking a big chunk and then back combing it is because I've said it before, I think you can create warm bands through the hair if you do the teasing. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the teasing. I just think it causes so many issues at the basin as well. So if you can just take your time and do it this way, I think you save time later. So here's my beautiful foil head. What you can see is that at the back, I have done everything in a foil. So basically what my role is that if the hair is dark and natural and thick, I'll put everything in a foil. But if it's already pre-lightened and it's a little bit more fine, then I will do my freehand tipping out. So I just wanted to show you that. So all my tip out here is in foil so that I get a really good lift. And then my tipping out the front, I decided to do freehand because it's already lightened and it's a little bit more fine. And like I said before, it's almost like the front and the back are two different heads of hair in a lot of cases. What I wanted to show you with my face framing is my technique. So I've done the pink as my face frame. And what I do is, if you just look down, Ella, what I do is pretty much most of the time I do 5 foils and then I will change it depending on how thick and bold I want it. But my technique is 3 to the roots and then 2 overlaying that, and that's what creates that really soft but full face frame, and then tipping out those front bits as well. And then I continued going back, just look down, I continued going back on that same angle, and each time I'm just bringing my balayage down to start a little bit further down so that I'm getting a lot of her natural still coming. That's going to sit behind her face frame and create that real pop. So not wanting to do too much work in here. It's more here and here. Does that make sense? And the other thing, which I do the same thing, I think it's Jay Edwards from Edwards & Co, where I learned this tip, which I have experimented a lot with, and it really really works for a good balayage, which is just leaving this little section in here, under here, you can see, I have to zoom in on that later, leaving that little triangle in there, I find gives a really beautiful bit of depth. But I always will layer a baby fine foil over the top of that section. So yeah, hey, bit of a messy job this one, but yeah, I'll show you the result. Popping my toner on, I'm using a 8 and an 8.03. I love the 0.03. It's original mineral. It's with a 1.5%, and because I've put my foil placement all in the right spots, I don't need to worry about sectioning anything out. Although I did say this was a bold face frame, and it probably ended up being a little bit more blended, so maybe if I was going to do it again, I would just leave the front out with the toning until last, just so that had a little bit more brightness. But otherwise you can just go and paint this all on, and I just use the same toner, root to tips, start on the roots, bring it down, leave it for a couple of minutes, and then dilute it, and I'll put it on my ends. So as you can see that the foil placement has created the depth and the light in the right places already, so just one toner to blend everything together. I do use the Restore in my toner, as you can see here really clearly, really tight around the hairline, and then as I'm working up, as you come up deeper into the towards the crown, it's the foil's starting lower down and it's left that depth, so nice and tight around the halo and lower down through the crown. So just paint my toner on with my Foil Me toning brush. So good, it's so chunky, I love it. Helps you to get it on a lot faster. Alright, so I've done all my roots, and by the time I finish it's probably been on about 5 minutes, so yeah, like I said before, I just like to dilute my toner down, and then I'm just painting it all through and leave that another 5 minutes on Ella, complete my Restore treatment, and yeah, it's bloody beautiful. I just want to talk you through the result that we got on Ella today. I'm so happy with it. As you can see, we've got her beautiful face frame. So it's nice and bright around the front, but it's not too heavy on the hair part line. So I'm just going to get you to go down. So without having to tone that out with any dark color or anything, that foil placement has just given a perfect softness at the top. And also I'll just show you too that even when Ella pulls her hair up, she doesn't have any big bold stripes there either, so that's why I really like this technique. What else was I going to say? Yeah, I think I already said it's nice and textured through. I'm just going to turn your head to the side, Ella, thank you. You can see that it's nice and textured through there. The foil pattern gave me a really good base around here as well, so didn't have to do anything too crazy with my toner to make that blend down. I might just show you the back result as well, just so you can see how it looks from the back. So, oh my gosh, look at this hair, please. Okay, so what I just want to show you is how when I lift up Ella's hair, see how she's got this beautiful texture underneath. Oh, nice. So nice. So everything's nice and blended. So just thought I'd show you that. Really fine on the hairline. But then when I go through the mid, as you would have seen, just a little bit heavier with my foils through there to create the texture. And then that tipping out is what creates that nice bold, beachy sort of feeling on the bottom.